What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL video. In this video, my 5 Super Bowl contenders for this 2021 NFL season. It's about that time. We are deciding who are the contenders, who are the pretenders, and who are the real players to win the Super Bowl this season. The 5 teams that can actually win the Super Bowl. Nobody else, in my personal opinion, has a shot to win the Super Bowl. It's just these 5 teams that I believe, if things go their way, they could end up as Super Bowl champs this season. So before I give you my 5 legit contenders for the Super Bowl, make sure that you do spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more BLV just like this. And let me know in the comments, who are your 5 Super Bowl contenders? Let me know in the comments how you feel about these 5 teams. My 5 teams that I think are separate from the rest. Let's kick off my 5 Super Bowl contenders with my number 5, and that is the Los Angeles Rams. Personally, I'm not buying into the Rams not being a Super Bowl contender. It wasn't that long ago that we were considering this team the cream of the crop, the top of the top, the best of the best in terms of Super Bowl type teams. This team actually reminds me a lot of the Bucs last year in terms of they've got to find the right formula for this group of talent. They've got to become a real team. And if they can become a team instead of a bunch of players that are talented, they can become Super Bowl champions. And it's because they've got a very good coach. They've got a very good quarterback. They have enough on the offensive line. They've got balance on offense with plenty of weapons. They've got a defense with lots of playmakers. They're not my top team, but they've got as much talent as anyone else. You just look at the superstars that they have, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey on defense, on top of some secondary playmakers behind them, like adding Von Miller to the mix. Leonard Floyd is super underrated. Guys like Gaines are coming into their own. Sebastian Joseph-Day, very underrated. There are players on this defense, Darius Williams, that can make plays and that can rise up in the big occasion. I also believe that they can give certain teams a tough time with that pass rush. They can get ahead in games and they can secure games and win games based on their athletic playmakers on the edge, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, their absolute disruptor in Aaron Donald, and their shutdown man in Jalen Ramsey. There could be trouble if they fall behind because they could be exposed with their run defense and with their pass protection, but I think if they play on their terms, they run the ball, they use a lot of play action, Stafford's hitting those bombs down the field to Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, and Odell Beckham Jr., they could be a lot to handle. And when they're playing at their best, we've seen them beat some of the best teams in football, the Cardinals, the Buccaneers, and they can definitely do it. Even on the road, I believe they can do it. The Rams are a good football team. It's a matter of piecing it all together. In terms of statistically, the Rams are pretty well balanced on both sides of the football. In terms of DVOA, they're 5th in total DVOA. They're in the top 6 on offense and on defense. And the most impressive part of any stat that I could find was they are 1st offensively in points per drive. So if their defense can find a way to improve on early downs, get off the field on 3rd down, and get the ball to this offense more often, and this defense just gets a little bit better, they could be the team to win the Super Bowl as my number 5. My number 4 team that could potentially win the Super Bowl this 2021 season is the Kansas City Chiefs. We have seen the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row and nearly 3 years in a row. They've at least been a contender 3 years in a row with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and much of this core that has made up the current Chiefs, which is giving me kind of like mid-2000s Patriots vibes where I don't quite feel like they are the team to beat. I don't think they're like the biggest contender, but you've got to respect them. You've got to look at their experience and understand that they're a threat and understand that they could do it if they turn the switch on. The Chiefs are a football team that typically have been known by their offense. Their offense hasn't been that top unit that we've seen the last couple of years. The last 3 years, you could argue the Chiefs have had the best offense in football, which has given them a dynamic nature that has separated them from the rest of the AFC and the rest of the NFC and the rest of football, and that's allowed them to win a Super Bowl and get to another one. The problem with the Chiefs right now is their offense isn't quite as good as we've expected it to be, and I don't think we're ever going to see that again. But we could see that again. We could see Mahomes have almost a 2019-like run where all of a sudden he is coming up clutch, making plays, scramble drill is back on, Tyreek Hill is just beasting, Travis Kelce's getting open left and right, and this passing offense and this offense is back. And they do seemingly have a little bit more of a complete offensive line with possibly a little bit better run game to rely on in the cold in January. If it's in Arrowhead or let's say New England, they can play a little bit of that power style of ball that they haven't really been able to play, at least last year. Defensively, I think they are pretty good. And I think the thing people forget about the Chiefs the last few years is their defense, when they won the Super Bowl and they went back to the Super Bowl, was actually underrated. Like, just because their offense was so good, they didn't get a lot of attention, but their defense was around the top 10, top 15. Now, this year, they've been playing like one of the better units in football as of late. They struggled early on, but have turned the corner with Steve Spagnuolo. I really respect the Chiefs because of that experience, but it's also because of the experience at the coaching level, with Spagnuolo on defense being able to scheme and adjust for any opponent, and then Andy Reid understanding these big games and putting together game plans, especially if you get bye weeks involved. That's where he becomes an X factor. So the Chiefs, from a coaching perspective, from a quarterback perspective, from a weapons perspective, from a defensive playmaker Chris Jones perspective, I don't truly think their defense is as good as they've played lately, but as long as they can continue to make plays, they can continue to defend the run well, which I think is absolutely key, and this corner group continues to be sticky, I think the Chiefs can be a team that gets to the Super Bowl and wins the Super Bowl if Mahomes is closer to 2019, 2020 form than this year. That is the key. It all really comes down to Mahomes. If he's not the same guy, if he's the same guy he's been this year, I don't think this team can win the Super Bowl. But if they get Mahomes on top of the way this defense is playing, then you could see them win the Super Bowl. Offensively, they are actually first in yards per play still. They started really well to begin the year, but they still belong at the top in terms of yards per play. Outside of that, one X factor for this football team is special teams. They do rank second in special teams DVOA. So they're a complete team. They can beat you in a lot of different ways, including special teams, offense, and defense. So the Chiefs are real. My number 3 Super Bowl contender for this 2021 NFL season is the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are an interesting team because when you watch them and the way people talk about them, they are arguably the best team in football, right? But the weird thing about the Packers is statistically, it doesn't align with the way that their reputation exists. Like, they almost feel statistically like they are underrated, but maybe they are actually overrated because statistics don't back up the performance that we're seeing with our eyes. And I'm not sure exactly what that is. Maybe their offense is a little bit worse than we possibly think they are. Maybe their defense is more fraudulent than we want to assume. Maybe they haven't played quite the competition that other top teams have played. Maybe they just haven't really been blowing out teams in the impressive fashion that help your statistics. There's a lot of reasons. Maybe Aaron Rodgers has just recently gone on an incredible run where now all of a sudden they have become maybe the best team in the league. But the Packers statistically on this list of 5 are the least impressive, and it's not really that close. Like, they don't have one area or one stat that you look at and say, this is the Super Bowl champions. The only real stat that you could say is like offensive DVOA, they're a second. Otherwise, defensively, they're somewhere in the middle of the pack. Special teams, they're actually last, which could be their kryptonite. It could be their Achilles heel. The Packers are 9th in SRS, which is a combination of point differential and strength of schedule. Statistically, they're not impressive, but where they are impressive is they continuously find ways to win these kind of close games Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal. I mean, he makes everyone around him better. They're kind of performing and winning despite injuries to crucial players. And if they get them back, they could be even better. Davante Adams is the best receiver in football. They've got a nice tandem of running backs where they have some balance offensively, which I think separates them from like a Kansas City or a Buffalo or certain teams where they don't necessarily have a running game to go along with a potent passing attack. Their defense is opportunistic, and it feels like they're more balanced this year, where they can defend the run fairly well, defend the pass pretty darn well, and it just feels better than last year. But I feel like they're less explosive than last year, and they almost have the similar problems of last year, where I just don't know if they have enough explosiveness on offense, enough weaponry on offense to support Aaron Rodgers playing the best teams in football. If they have to play the Cowboys, the Rams, the Bucks, the Cardinals even, could they go toe-to-toe offensively if their defense doesn't come up with huge performances? So it's really interesting for me with the Packers. I could certainly see Aaron Rodgers going on a run, winning a Super Bowl with the defense playing very well. I think the key for this team is a combination between epic Aaron Rodgers and epic defense. If they get those two things at the same time, they have a chance to win the Super Bowl. But if either one of those things is slightly off, or if only Rodgers is great or only the defense is great, they probably don't win. If the offense just doesn't have enough outside of Adams, then they probably don't win. There's a lot of factors with the Packers, but they need to find that perfect formula to win the Super Bowl this year. I still don't think it's like they are the team to beat. They kind of need to outperform these other teams in terms of finding that perfect balance. We will see. My number 2 Super Bowl contender is the New England Patriots. And I know a lot of people are going to scoff at this and say, you're just a biased Patriots fan. But in fact, I wasn't going to put the Patriots this high until I really dug into the statistics. And quite honestly, the Patriots as a stat team, if you were just to look at statistics, which is weird because New England in the past hasn't really been a big stat team. Like, other than really points for and points against, New England has never really been known as a metrics team, as an analytics team. Like, even their best teams at certain points weren't so good or impressive analytically speaking. But you look at this team from a stat perspective, and this has to do also with strength of schedule, which I think a lot of people think they haven't played a tough strength of schedule. But when you look at Pro Football Reference SRS, which is a combination of strength of schedule and point differential, they actually rank with the highest grade. They're first, right? Then you look elsewhere. Okay, they're first in net points per drive. Points are very important. They're first in net points per drive, which is basically an equation that minuses your offense points per drive with your defense points per drive. They're first in defense points per drive. They're about 9th on offense. They're first in weighted DVOA. They're second in overall DVOA. They're second in defensive DVOA. They're 4th in special teams. They're 10th in offensive DVOA. They're top 10 in every category. They have great balance in all areas. They can defend the run. They can stop the pass. They can pass the ball. They can run the ball. They play great special teams. They've got very, very, very good coaching. And I think the edge, if you're going to pick New England here or think they're going to be a contender or the reason they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, I think has to do with a couple things. Defensively, they've got to be the best defense in the playoffs, period. They've got to win these games based on Bill Belichick and his defense. Special teams as well. Field position as well. Kicking as well. But defense most importantly. And that might be the X factor of the Patriots. Because in my opinion, they clearly have the best defense in the NFL. And if that defense comes to play week in, week out in January, they could win the Super Bowl in a grinded out fashion, even versus the best teams in the league. Even if they were to play the Bucs, which I think is the best offense. I think they're the only team that could beat Tampa in a 24-20 type of game because of their defense, because of their coaching, because of Bill Belichick's wicked ability to put together a game plan, especially in a 2-week Super Bowl. If they were to play an Aaron Rodgers, if they were to play a Mahomes, the Belichick factor levels the playing field even with the rookie quarterback. Now, a lot of people are going to say they can't win it because of Mac, but Mac doesn't really play like a rookie, on top of the fact that they don't ask him to do a ton. But here's the thing that I think people might be missing. Their passing game can get it done when asked, when called upon. I do believe if New England's going to win the Super Bowl, they probably need to have one game out of 3 where they just outplay and outperform that offense. There has to be 1 out of 3. They can win 2 games on defense, but one of them might need to be by the offense. And I think they're capable of that, both on the ground and through the air. I think they're very underrated in their passing attack. But I think New England, from a roster perspective, they're one of the better ones. From an overall perspective, they look to be statistically, arguably, the best one. So that's why they're at number 2. And my number 1 Super Bowl contender is your Super Bowl champions, currently the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the reason the Bucs are number 1 is because I think they're the most talented team, on top of having probably the best quarterback, as well as having the championship experience of winning on the road last year and potentially playing at home this year, where they have not lost a football game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a team that is dynamic on really both sides of the ball, but offensively, they are by far right now the best offense in football, and that can be seen through DVOA, where they are 10% better than the second place Packers on offense. And for the last few weeks, this has been without Antonio Brown, which just speaks to how good this offense is. They're very good passing the ball, obviously. They can throw for 300 on any defense, but they can also run the ball if you choose to give them that lane to success. They're very balanced on offense. They've got the best offensive line, the MVP, a great receiving core, a great tight end core, a very capable play caller and schemer with Byron Leftwich. And I feel like the offense is just not going to be stopped by a majority of teams, because there aren't really that many good defenses. And if you score 30, which the Bucs do basically every game, they actually haven't lost when they score 30 points with Tom Brady. They are undefeated through the last 2 years. Now, defensively, that speaks to how they're able to play, right? Defensively, they can make enough plays. I don't know if they're as good as last year, but they certainly have that capability. They're very good versus the run. They make you one-dimensional. Todd Bowles is a creative game planner, and he feels to have the upper hand on a team like Green Bay. Potentially, the bad matchup could be the Rams, but there aren't many teams where you look at in the NFC, or the AFC for that matter, that just purely matches up from a Jimmy's and Joe's perspective with the Tampa Bay Bucs, on top of having the GOAT leading the team. It just feels like it's going to take a lot for this team to lose in the playoffs. And that's why, to me, they're the number 1 team in the NFL. So those are your top 5 Super Bowl contenders for this 2021 NFL season. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to spike that like button and subscribe for more. It's Mitch. And of course, let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree. Peace.